everyone. Good to see you all online this evening.
And welcome to Circles Live.
Yes, welcome back for another session where we get to interact live with you, those who are watching with us. And of course, we've already put out the question, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but do have a think. Throw your thoughts into the chat column, wherever you're watching this, YouTube, Facebook, or of course, WhatsApp. Let's give you the number for WhatsApp. It's coming along the bottom right now, 07562 771030. Make sure you let us know what you think.
You sounded then like you were presenting for like Red Nose Day or Comic Relief or something. I've always wanted to do the number like that. That was very professional.
I always wanted to be in the broom cupboard. Remember the broom cupboard?
Actually, this feels like now again, people who are under a certain age or even over a certain age will not remember the broom cupboard. The broom cupboard was kind of our era in the early 90s, wasn't it? The kind of kids TV.
Well, you can be Gordon the Gopher.
Maybe Gob. That's not very nice.
No, he's cute.
Well, apart from the fact I'm female, but yeah, never mind.
Yeah, well, he's a puppet, so. Wow, look at that. It was
back in the day with Philip Schofield and who was the other one?
Jason Donovan?
Andy Crane.
Andy Crane.
That came out of.
Was it
Andy Crane?
It was Andy Crane, yes. Anyway, for Ed the Duck.
Ed the Duck. See, now
Duck.
Everybody is going to be showing their age.
Yeah, let us know in the chat column right now, because let's make this all-inclusive, because I feel like anybody under 40 just isn't going to get that. So let us know your favourite child memory from TV, or maybe there was a puppet, maybe there was an animal, maybe there was some imaginary animated thing. Let us know in the chat column right now. Let's make sure we include everybody of all ages.
Andy Peters and Andy Crane.
There we go.
And Philip Schofield did.
Yeah, and Andy Crane, Andy Peters. Yeah, that's it. Gordon the Gopher, Ed the Duck.
I do feel this is a dangerous conversation for me because I am a nostalgic person.
You are a nostalgic person.
You know what? When this very important session of Circles is over, I will be heading straight over to YouTube,
checking out
clips.
YouTube. Absolutely, yeah. And of course, if you are of an age when television hadn't been invented, then of course maybe it was in a book that you read and you saw cute little figures and you thought, that's a childhood memory. Andy Pandy. I think that was on TV, wasn't it?
Every generation, I think, knows Andy Pandy. Even my kids watched Andy Pandy, but obviously not.
Didn't he have striped pajamas?
Something like that, but not the original.
Basil Brush. Boom,
Basil.
Boom. Basil Brush. Is that what he did?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Boom, boom.
This is taking a whole really random.
Oh, Pingu.
Okay, stop, because you're always going into speaking in tongues.
Oh,
Please
yes.
stop.
And Simon, Jamie and his magic torch.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember Jamie and his magic torch? I mean, look at that. I mean, that is just classic. Classic. Thanks, Simon, for letting us. And Muffin the Mule. Muffin the Mule. Was that TV or was that before the TV?
1950s. There, you see, that's
the
before the TV.
Was that? I don't know. I don't know. Muffin the Mule. Was that a book? Fireball XL5. Hey, listen. Now you're on dodgy ground if you don't say that is part. I think it was the beginning of an era of puppets on strings. I think it was Super Mario Nation. Was it, Mark? Confirm that for me.
Sounds like something you have on your computer, Fireball.
Yeah, I know. No, Bill and Ben, the Flower Pot Men.
A little weed.
I hope you. I hope that wasn't. I just go watch Bill and Ben with a little weed.
Sue, letting all your secrets out.
That's how she chills out on a Monday night.
Do you know what? One of my...
It does sound like an advert for some dodgy things here. Jamie's magic torch,
They probably were.
Bill and Ben Flower Pot Men with a little weed. And the clangers. The clangers. I've got to be honest, Lorraine.
No, they did show the clangers. They did
I thought it was when he made mistakes. You drop clangers. No, not the same thing.
clangers, they had like they've updated it since the original.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's like a puppet.
Love the
kind of thing.
clangers. Brilliant stuff. Hey, well, it's always good to stir up those memories of yesteryear.
I will be spending the evening on YouTube and on Google looking at all the old 80s and 90s cartoons.
Oh, I know. Absolutely. Well, of course, on Monday nights, this is what we're talking about. We are talking about going from...
So you caught me off then. I was thinking about programs for the 80s and 90s.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, come on, let's get back with it.
I know. Sorry. Going from believers to builders.
Why? What had come to your memory?
I was thinking about the raccoons. That's what I was
Oh, the
thinking
raccoons.
Of.
Oh, yeah,
the raccoons back in the day.
The raccoons.
Yeah, I could sing the theme tune, but I won't. No, we're going to stick with
going
from believers to builders, because that's what we've been focusing on. And this is the third session. Obviously, we had the intro, but this is our third circle session. And just let us know again in the chat how your circles are going, how you're managing to unpack that in your circles in the week, because we want to make sure this isn't just another thing that you tune into, but this is something that you take into your week, into your conversations. I've had a couple of really good conversations this week from people who've really enjoyed their circle and really felt that last week's particular was a really significant conversation with their circles. So that excites me, knowing that this is life-giving conversation.
Absolutely. And some of the circles have been taking place with some fantastic food, with drinks and fun. And hey, let me just throw out a challenge right now to all circles. And if you're watching this and you're not in a circle, hey, create a circle. Get people watching this with you. Simply decide to meet up and to discuss what you're watching. Okay. And of course, you can watch it back at any point. But here's a bit of a challenge. Let's challenge the circles to find the most salubrious spot to have a circle. Salubrious spot, or maybe the most fun activity alongside it. And send some pictures to us. We'll have some pictures.
In fact, send them into the WhatsApp number.
The WhatsApp number across the bottom. WhatsApp your pictures.
Yeah.
If you've already had a circle session, and you've got some pictures, send them to us. We'll bring them into a Monday night. Maybe even a little video. We can do videos. You can send them in. But circles, the most salubrious place. There may even be a prize. Maybe every month we'll give a prize for the circle that has just done the most exciting activity or been to the most salubrious place. Book a holiday. Well, we've already had one circle that's pretty much gone to Kos,
yeah,
Greece.
That is true. They were in Greece. You are really going to town tonight. Prizes and everything.
Prizes, absolutely. Listen, It's all about engagement. It's all about having fun, and it's about growing together to make that shift from believers to builders.
And so tonight's question here we've got, can you be a true disciple if you don't obey every command Jesus gives? Ooh,
wow, you've chosen a big one there.
A clanger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the reason we've kind of asked that is not, you can give an obvious answer, but as always, we want to unpack this more and look at this a little bit more. And obviously, I know some people have been putting their answers to that question into the chat. But we want to say that, with this whole thing is that there's freedom to say whatever, to discuss whatever. You don't feel you've got to give the right answer. We want honest answers so that we can discuss them together. And sorry, I'm going to cough.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, my wife has been very unwell, and she's just come out of hibernation this evening. For you people, she loves you so much, and so she will cough from time to time.
I was trying to suppress it, and I thought the more I suppress it, it's just going to be a bigger cough.
Yeah.
So, but a believer knows what God says, so reads the Word of God, reads the Bible, understands. But a builder goes one step further and does what God says. And that's really key for us to grasp a hold of in this conversation. That a believer knows what God says, but a builder does what God says. It's the difference between intention and action. It's knowing and having faith, but then putting that into practice. Now, something similar that I can think of is that actually it's a difference between hearing and listening, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Isn't there, Gareth?
Complete difference.
There's a difference between hearing,
which I have learned to my detriment.
I've often said that Gareth sometimes hears me but doesn't listen.
Sorry.
And I understand that maybe my voice at some point will become like background noise, white noise, brown noise, whatever we have these days.
A beautiful, beautiful music.
Music. Stop it, because you're going to make me cough again. Now stop. Music, I think you were meaning to say,
No,
not music. I know what
background
No, I
music.
know what it is.
Oh, okay.
I was correcting you. I don't mind being beautiful music. I don't want to be music. But yes, so there's a difference between hearing and listening.
I know, because you told me, I mean, this has happened multiple occasions where I've got this wrong. And you
I'm
sent
waiting
me
for
out,
two.
you sent me out shopping the other day, and she said, listen, make sure that you put ketchup on the shopping list. Then I came back with the wrong items. She said, you come back with the wrong items. I said, I know, but I couldn't read anything.
I don't get it.
I put ketchup on the shopping list.
Give me chance. Give me chance. My brain's all clogged up with and congested. So.
Look at that. So it's true, isn't it? No, that was a terrible joke.
That
was a 1 out of 10.
terrible
I know. You can only get better from here. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There are many times when this is where you're a bit cruel, because you will test me. It's almost like, right, I'm now going to test you on what I have just told you, and I'm going to ask you 3 questions. If you don't get all 3 right, then you will be punished.
It's when I suspect that you haven't been listening to me, that you've just heard me, and I'll go, oh, Gareth, what did I just say? And you go, it's like a rabbit caught in the headlights. And to be fair, it's because you're always working so hard, your brain's full. But sometimes you hear me, but you're not listening.
True, that is true.
And I do the same. You know, let's not just make this all about you. That we often will hear someone will be going, like there's noise, but I'm not actually taking it in and listening with intention. And I think if we're not careful as disciples, we can sometimes hear that God is, and we know that God is speaking. We can read the Bible, we can listen to him, we can talk to him, we can pray, we can listen to all the podcasts, everything. But if we're not careful, it just becomes like background noise, and we don't really listen and then move it into action. And that's what the difference of this is between just having the Bible there and just having God there as kind of a background. The difference between that and being a builder is actually then listening and doing what it says.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we are going to be looking at the full question, which is what we've already said already. Can you be a true disciple if you don't obey every command Jesus gives? But also, if no, what stops us from obeying him? So we can already see some people have given the answer no. You need to obey every command. It's not a pick and mix. But if no, then what stops us from obeying him? What things do we find difficult?
I think there was a quote that just popped up then from somebody. I think Paul had said that no, basically you can't. Here we go. Simple answer to the question. No, I like that. Get straight to the point. No. Does it mean I fail at this discipleship? Quite often. That is true. And this is what we're going to look at. It's the difference between, this isn't about legalism, you have to get everything right. This is about our heart, knowing that actually we know it is important to follow all the commands of Jesus, but we're going to fail because we're human beings. But that isn't actually the point. It's our intention and our heart behind it. Great.
Absolutely. Sue said, as hard as I try, I'll always fall short, but I still love Jesus. Yeah, and that's absolutely true. The key here is fulfilling the commands reveals our love for him, but it doesn't determine his love for us.
Isn't that amazing?
It is absolutely incredible. It fulfilling the commands is not a mechanism that, activates acceptance. God accepts me when I score, over 75% in the keeping command category. No, this is about understanding that I am a child of God when I put my faith in Jesus Christ, and I am secure in that. But this now is about the journey of becoming like Christ.
Yeah, good.
I think what I want to try and do, Leanne, throughout our conversation tonight is to not just see the commands as something that, I have to keep, but they are commands I get to keep.
Yeah, good.
Let me say that again. The commands of God are not the things I have to keep. They are the things I get to keep. Because the truth is the whole idea is God has given us a set of standards, not to trip us up, but to test us.
Yeah.
And not to test us to prove that we can't, but to prove that in him we can.
Yeah.
So actually, this is just like going, you go and, let's say, I'm going to use this analogy, it may not be the greatest, but you book a personal trainer, and that personal trainer is not giving you exercises to prove that you can't do something. He's giving you resistance to develop muscle, to take your fitness to the next level. And that's what commands are. Commands help us in our character fitness, unlocking the image of God in us. And the more we go after the commands, not just keeping the commands, I better keep this command because it's just come across my path. Do not lie, do not, look at another man's wife, they're not just the things that I just need to keep because they are the things that are appearing in my day to day. But actually, somebody who wants to get fit goes looking for resistance. In other words, what command do I get to keep today?
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. When you really love somebody, you want to please them. You want to do
100%.
what they're asking. And I think this is probably a good time for us to go and look at the verses that kind of are behind everything that we're saying in this conversation. So let's go to James 1 and verse 2. And it says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. That's important, because sometimes we quote the beginning of that verse, don't we? Don't merely listen to the word, do what it says, but we miss that bit of, and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like.
Wow.
Did we have
Sorry.
No,
I was getting locked into those verses.
But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they've heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. I love that the fact that the kind of original text, the emphasis there, is actually to keep becoming doers. So it's a continual thing. It's not like a one-off, I've done now what God says, therefore I've made it. As always with this discipleship journey, becoming a builder, it is a continual process of becoming doers.
Yes.
So it isn't like a little tick list, like a law. I've done that, now done, next. No, God's not interested in that. That's cold. That's not relationship. It's about becoming doers. It's a constant. And I think what we've got to realize is just having an awareness of Jesus and who he is does not make us disciples on its own. Because I believe there are many people who have an awareness of Jesus, have an awareness of what he's done, but they're not disciples of Jesus. They're not saved. But when we look at those verses, we realize that to obey him, to do what it says, is out of love. Like you're saying, it's not, I have to do these things. I get to do them. I want to do them.
Yeah. And
why? There's a really, really key part of those verses. Don't merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves.
Yeah.
There's verse 22. There's a real danger that comes that if we are just listening, just hearing, just reading, but not putting it into practice, not doing it, we will deceive ourselves in thinking, I'm there, I've arrived, I'm a disciple, I'm a builder, I've done it. I can just sit back, I've got the t-shirt, got the certificate. No, it's a continual process, but we have to actually put it into practice. Otherwise, we can deceive ourselves, and the Bible teaches us that our heart can be the most deceitful above all things. That actually we can deceive ourselves. We can trick ourselves into thinking we're doing really well when we're not. So it's really key that we do what it says. It avoids deception.
And I think it's a really interesting reminder for each of us. And Jeremiah reminds us, I haven't got the exact verse to hand, but Jeremiah reminds us that the heart, man's heart, that's men and women's heart, is deceitful above all. In other words, we're all imperfect people, and our hearts will naturally try and justify the inclination of our heart to do the wrong thing. So every human being, I mean, let's face it, as small babies, you even see it there that they do the wrong thing and they know they're doing the wrong thing. They'll look at their parent, almost pushing the boundary. And what we do is we justify why it's okay to do that. And when we start to believe that justification, what happens is it starts to distort how we see ourselves and how we see other people. It actually messes with the lens through which we look at life. Now, that means that every single day, left to our own devices, and that's me and you included, isn't it, Leanne, that we are going to do something stupid.
Oh, I probably have as well, for the times when I've just done it my own way and thought I've deceived myself and thought I'm doing a great job and actually come a cropper.
We all self-deceive ourselves. And even if whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian right now, this applies to all of us because it's part of human nature, is that we deceive ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you recognize what James is saying here, this actually is a way to protect ourselves. Oh, where did those balloons come from? Wow.
I have no idea. That was maybe someone's
Somebody
celebrating
just literally, we were.
What was that?
Or maybe we're deceived. Maybe they didn't happen.
Oh, I think maybe it was because Paul was talking about hot air balloons earlier
It might be. But anyway, so what James here is saying, he's saying that actually the way to protect yourself from self-deception is to look into God's word. Because it's the only perfect place to look.
And the reason why his word is the only a perfect place to look is because the word is a person, not a written set of rules.
Good.
And that is the absolute key of what we're talking about. When we read there, don't merely listen to the word, but do what it says. It's not about a set of rules. It's not a law. It's not an old ancient scroll written up somewhere. It is Jesus himself. He is the word. He's the word become flesh. And so actually, when we realize the word is a person and we realize who that person is, then we totally understand why it's important for us to do what he says.
Absolutely. And sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say that people, naturally as human beings, we want to know more because we believe that, and we're told that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So by knowing more and understanding more and having more knowledge, it's everything. But knowledge isn't everything, because I can know everything about Jesus. I can know who he is without actually knowing him personally. And a lot of people do know who Jesus is and know about him. You know, even the best theologians can tell you things that I can't, even though I'm in a relationship with Jesus. Knowledge isn't power, not in this instance anyway. The only thing that can truly set you free, and we'll come to that in a little while, is the application of God's word, applying Jesus as a person to your life.
Good.
Implementing him, putting him into practice, living him out or living for him. They're the kinds of things that we're talking about, but that's the freedom that comes. But you see, we're taught, and the human nature will kick against that because they'll think that laws kind of cut off freedom. But you see, in the kingdom of God, his laws and his word brings freedom. It's a complete spin on what the world will tell you.
Absolutely. And again, you know, just emphasizing what you just said there, the law gives freedom.
Yeah.
So again, this is something I get to do.
Yeah.
It gives me something. The problem is we think freedom is a lack of law.
Yeah.
The truth is, any nation that is flourishing economically, socially, across business, education, healthcare, family, media, arts and sport, there is a set of laws and boundaries that create that healthy society. And laws precede freedom. Now, you might say, but Gareth, there are countries where I'm not sure the laws are good for the people that live there. Well, this is about understanding it's perfect law that gives freedom. Yeah. Not just any law. You know, I can throw out a whole load of laws for my family. I can be a really imposing dad and controlling dad. And I may be doing that from my own distorted self-image because actually I have insecurity. And so I've got to impose my sense of authority on other people just to make me feel better. Well, that is imperfect law. And it actually leads to bondage. It actually leads to limiting people. But actually, perfect law gives freedom. And again, notice, continues in it. It's not just today. It's not just tomorrow. It's a discipline. It's a lifestyle of I get to keep the commands of God and I lean into Christ, who is the one who can keep the commands. And the more I lean into him, I rely upon his strength and his power, and I get to see his amazing grace at work in my life.
That's amazing. And that's when we do fail, because we will, that we see that grace open up. So it's not like, oh, you failed, you've slipped up, that's that. And so many people would have us think that that's how God works. So many people think that's how God works. It's not true. Where we fail, God's grace is ready to there, not just to make up the gap, but to just completely almost swallow us in that grace, that we are totally covered. But we have to keep becoming doers. That's the key. It's not to give up, it's to keep going, because God sees our heart more than the action itself. And if we look in John chapter 8, this is where Jesus talks, and it kind of mentions that we've just been talking there about freedom and how the doing what he says brings freedom. It says in verse 31, to the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. So there you go. We've answered our question. Our question is, can you be a true disciple if you don't obey every command Jesus gives? Well, Jesus has given us the answer there. If you hold to my teaching, if you keep becoming doers of the word, you are really my disciples. And this is the key here, and this is why we've underlined it here. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. They answered him, we are Abraham's descendants, and we have never been slaves of anyone. How can you say that we shall be set free? And Jesus replied, very truly I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. So if the son sets you free, you will be free indeed. I know you are Abraham's descendants, yet you are looking for a way to kill me, because you have no room for my word. I'm telling you what I've seen in the Father's presence, and you're doing what you have heard from your Father.
Amazing.
So those key words there, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember here, just like we said about the word, truth is a person, not an idea or a concept. Because that's the problem with today's society. Truth is seen as just a concept or an idea or a belief that's specific to a person. It's a relative truth. But when we look at this truth that Jesus is talking about, he's talking about himself. He said himself, I am the way, the truth, and the life. It's personified in him. There is no truer person than Jesus.
Yeah.
He holds all truth. And the thing is that today we're told, oh, well, if it's your truth, then that's good for you. If it's my truth, then that's good for me. But we're going to fall absolutely flat on our face if we hold ourselves accountable to our own truth. But when we hold ourselves up to the truth, the person of Jesus Christ, not just an idea or concept, then we will truly be set free.
Absolutely. And I think, again, just look at verse 31, because this is really important. What I don't want people to go away thinking this evening or watching this back is that if I fail on the commands, then I'm not his disciple. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying here in verse 31 says, if you hold to my teaching. Yeah. Now think about it this way. It's a bit like, if you're in a storm and you're on a boat, okay? And let's say that the central mast, okay, this huge, tall kind of post that's at the center of the boat. Let's say that is the teaching of Christ. Then when the storm comes and the boat starts to rock, you run to that post. You hold on to that post for dear life, because you know that post represents safety and security in the midst of the storm. Will you get wet? Yes. Will there be times when maybe your fingers start to slip, or maybe you do slip and you let go, but then you run back to the post? In other words, it's the process of holding on to his teaching. That means that there will be failures. There will be times when I fail the commands, but it's my perseverance to hold on to the teaching, which is why Jesus said in the parable of the sower, it's the one who holds on and perseveres with the seed that produces the 30, 60, 100-fold. He doesn't say those who are perfect at keeping his word. It's those who persevere with the word, those who hold on to my teaching. And I think you've just mentioned here, Leanne, verse 32 is absolutely key. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The only way to shift a belief that you have, and I know in me, Leanne, I know you'll be the same, there are certain beliefs that you want to shift.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. I have so many things that I will think to be true. And even though I know in my spirit they're not true, in my mind I will say, oh, they are. I have to somehow get rid of them out of my mind, you know.
Absolutely. And I even look back to just before, I think it was Christmas last year, and there was a belief that I had that my God could provide for our needs. And at that point, we were going to take a step of faith. In other words, take a step where we knew that, because we've got lots of stories where he's provided. But the level that we were starting to know that in our minds was like let's say a level 8, and we've learned and experienced level 7. But in our knowledge, we're looking at level 8. But knowing level 8 and experiencing level 8 are two totally different
Very
things.
different things, yeah.
And the only way to know level 8 is to experience it.
Yeah.
In other words, to act on that knowledge, to do what you hear. And it's only experience that shifts belief. It's a bit like, I remember when we used to go to like Alton Towers, and even now, you used to queue up for a new ride, and maybe if you went with friends and they've just been on it, and they'll be like, oh, it's just absolutely amazing, it's incredible, and you ask them questions, how many loops were there, did you feel like you're going to come out of your seat? And they're like, oh, I just can't explain it, I can't kind of communicate in words how good it is. And the difference is they've experienced it, you just know about it, and you've heard about it, and it's only when you experience it that it moves from your head to your heart.
Do you know what? I've had a bit of a revelation.
Oh,
Like literally in that moment. And everyone might just go, oh, I got that a long time ago. When he talked about that being indescribable, like you can hear about it, you've got to experience it for yourself. Where it talks about we thank God for his indescribable gift. Talking about Jesus. Sometimes it is hard to describe Jesus, because how on earth do you wrap up the Son of God in a few words?
That is true.
But to know him is to really know who he is.
Yes, good.
And just when you were talking there about indescribable, I just began to say, yeah, I want to say to people, and I get emotional talking about it, I can't explain Jesus to you. You have to experience him for yourself. And when you've experienced him truly for yourself, you feel emotional, because it's in your spirit, it's in your soul. You don't know how else to talk about it. So that was like a little penny drop in that moment, that in order to truly understand, you have to experience this indescribable gift.
That is so, so true. And I think, just as we come into to wrapping up, Leanne, I know there's another verse that we wanted to look at. Should we look at that now?
Yeah, John chapter 14. And this is where we talk about, we mentioned about obedience and just doing what God says, because love is actually, and we talk about, it's a doing word.
Yes.
Love is not a descriptive word, it's a doing word, it's a verb. And Jesus talks about this in John 14, where he says, if you love me, keep my commands. It's that simple. If you love me, keep my commands. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. Isn't that amazing? That Jesus hasn't left us on our road to deal with this and go, well, I'm going back to heaven now, so I'm just going to leave you without my commands. He says, no, I'm going to leave you an advocate, the Holy Spirit. He's going to guide you into all truth. The world cannot accept him because he neither sees him nor knows him, but you know him, for he lives with you and will be in you. And that is the amazing thing, is the truth, who is Jesus, and now in the Holy Spirit living inside of us, we are able to keep his commands.
Yeah.
It's not an impossible task. It is impossible in certain, we can't be perfect because we're human beings, but God hasn't set us an impossible task to trip us up. He wants us to get closer to him, but love cannot be separated from obedience when it comes to Jesus. So we have to do what he says.
And that's a perfect point where we're coming into land now, and we want to bridge our conversation with the conversation that we're inviting you to have, where we'd love for you to take this further and to answer these honestly, these questions honestly, brutally honestly. Do you struggle with obedience in doing what God says? And if there's a struggle, and let's be honest, in all honesty, there is a struggle for all of us, but where that struggle is will probably be different.
Yeah.
And again, it's really important, this, and I think it's part of maybe a mindset shift that some of us have got to make. And I think it's the shift between a believer and a builder. very often believers want to avoid struggle, but builders embrace struggle. So actually we go looking for struggle because, again, let me use the gym analogy. If you walk into a gym and avoid struggle, it's not going to do you any good. You cancel your membership. It's pointless. Save yourself that 30 quid a month. Okay. You look for struggle because the struggle is going to build the muscle.
That's really
so
good.
do you struggle with obedience in doing what God says, and what is getting in the way?
Well, Jesus even says that, doesn't he? When he says, about the truth will set you free. And he says, you're looking for a way to kill me. He was talking to the people at the time. You're looking for a way to kill me because you have no room for my word. He said that in John 8:37, because you have no room for my word. That makes me think, my word. I need to look, what can I get rid of in my life that is it's taking up space where God's word needs to be. In other words, where Jesus needs to be.
Absolutely. And so listen, as we come into land right now, ABCs.
As always, A, what have I become aware of? This is what we want you to take into your circle. Obviously, you've got a couple of questions there to kickstart the conversation. What have I become aware of? A. Then B, what is the barrier I need to overcome? Look at the struggles. Look at what's getting in the way. Be honest.
Yes.
Don't give nice textbook answers.
Builders are brutally honest.
Oh,
Turn to the person next to you. If you're watching this with somebody and say, builders are brutally honest.
Oh, thank you for giving me that permission.
With themselves.
And see, what change am I going to make? This is the goals. This is what am I going to do out of this to make sure that I change, that I go from being a believer to a builder, that I'm keeping on doing, that I'm becoming a doer all the time. And that's really, really key.
Absolutely. So don't forget to go and join a circle. If you're in a circle already, get with them this week. Find out where you're going to be meeting and what you're going to be eating, what you're going to be drinking, what you're going to be doing. If you're not in a circle, then of course, why don't you get some people around you? Or of course, you can go to everydaychampions.tv. There's a contact form there and you can let us know who you are. If you're watching this, you're not part of Everyday Champions, but you want to get in on circles and be part of what's going on. Do that, okay? Paul Rhodes, our circles meeting in a hot air balloon.
I think that's why those balloons randomly went up on our broadcast. It was prophetic for Paul's circle.
How can you include balloons?
Said, I'm glad I'm not in your group, Paul.
How can you involve balloons in your circle group this week? That's the challenge, everyone. And don't forget, let us have your pictures. Send them to the WhatsApp, okay? And we'd love to see that. But from myself, Gareth Morgan.
And myself, Leanne Morgan.
Remember, today and every day, you're a champion. And there's more in you than you think. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.